All right, good afternoon, everyone. I think first and foremost, I would like to congratulate everyone for making it so far for the past 2 days. This is the last panel. I promise you that this will be somewhat engaging, and we're going to probably try to have a question that's going to pass around the audience. And if you have any answers or any questions, feel free to actually approach the experts that I have right here. I think I'm very honored to have a panel full of experts that are going to be talking about this very big topic. I think it's a very wide ESG that we're going to be talking about. But let's try to zoom it down and narrow it down to supply chain perspective. So without further ado, I think in the essence of time, let's start real quick. So the first question is, are there any specific technologies or innovations that your organization has adopted or plans to implement to enhance sustainability within the supply chain? I think Joanne will have the grace of taking the first question.
Yeah, actually there are a range of GNSS tracker, IoT sensors and RFID solutions that can cater to track all sorts of assets. I think the best solutions to track for prime movers and containers, still the GNSS trackers with the FMS and TMS backend. And then these solutions is very much affordable nowadays. And one of the sustainability example is that to enabling the trucks to use the shortest route by using the dynamic optimization tools and to do their any deliveries. And this will bring in reducing, improving efficiency, reducing fuel consumption, and also tire wear and tear. So another one good example is that I have been working for oil and gas for many years, and oil and gas has been using the IVMS systems for decades. And they are using just simple 4 compulsory parameters like overspeeding, harsh braking, harsh acceleration, harsh cornering. These parameters is mainly used for driver monitoring. But when you look in another way, actually it's good for environment. Because of if the driver doesn't commit to any violations, it's actually is you reducing in fuel and then less emission and also wear and tear for brakes and tires.
Yeah, making sure that their legs are not so heavy to press on the gas pedal, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
And rightfully mentioned, I think the TIS2 can also help selling some, for TAPA, right? The TIS2 can definitely help with the resilient part, I think, besides the sustainability part. I think that's a good one. Edward, any comments?
Yeah, I think our live example is the recycling of battery plant. So you earlier you see the solar and the huge containers, right? You can see that there's a 40-foot UPS system. Okay, it's actually energy storage that we harvest the energy from the sun. All right, so that is renewable energy and it's sustaining, and that will power the plant to save us the energy due to fossil fuel, right? This is one aspect. Use of IoT devices as well to monitor and optimize the energy consumption. You can actually see from our control room as well. And we use data analytics. So that is something that we leverage on technology to provide us insight into the way we manage our waste. And last but not least, very practical is the use of EV forklift, something that a warehouse can consider. And last but not least, everybody talk about plastic being not environmental friendly, and we are setting up a technology known as carbon nanotube to induce heat to make waste plastic into quite similar to what we call it the carbon fiber for the supercar. All right, 1 roll per meters is more than $1,000. So we are piloting it. The plant is ready. We call it the TES-C. All right, that's it.
I thought I heard Tesla, but okay. Verghese, any last closing comments for this question?
Yeah, I've got some interesting details. Basically, the 5 medias is IoT device, which Joanne have said. Then we have RFID, we have CIP, that's continuous inject printing, and one of my favorites is video analytics. Video surveillance to take the data. Now, what exactly is what Joanne had said? Everybody has got trackers, vehicles and trackers. You are getting all the data. You are having a KPI of the driver's performance. Now, what I'm actually advising a group that specializes in blockchain technology, whereby we are actually taking these inputs, this data, converting it into carbon credits. Now, how does this work? The drivers have a KPI. He's got point A to point X, and each point, of course, you have the time. When do you reach the other end? But along the way, speeding consumes more fuel, harsh braking. All of this will affect the emission and the consumption of the fuel. Now, all this will be connected, and the driver gets carbon credit. What does he do with the carbon credit? He cannot do anything with the carbon credit. He gives it, he sells it, or gives it to the company, his company, and the company rewards him in cash or kind of whichever way. And what does the company benefit? The company gets a credit, carbon credit. There is a carbon credit transaction happening. The company can sell it or utilize it for the emission that the company is going to do. And once that is done, there is, don't forget, supply chain emits 11.8% more emission than the operational industry. So that is how polluting we are. So this is one of the main things that we are working on it. And the next one is, everybody has got CCTV. Everybody has got recording. You've got video analytics. Some of them embarked on video analytics. I'm taking it to the next level. We've actually got a solution where what we're telling is, you have the video data. Why don't you convert it to intelligent business tools? Let me share some couple of very interesting technologies that we have come out with. We use artificial intelligence and computer vision. Let's take a docking station. You have your existing cameras focusing these docking stations, and our analytics can actually count the number of vehicles in each bay. It's okay if you have only 2-3 bays, you can do it manually, because 30% of your supervisor's job is to collect, collate, and make it an intelligent tools. Now, this will give you number of trucks in each loading bay, average loading bay, the utility of each bay. We have cases whereby sometimes you'll see that some bays has only 35% utility. What is the reason? The supervisor knows forklift is not working, workers are not available. A lot of factors involved. The truck has not come in. Likewise, you also have packing stations. You have a lot of packing stations where the workers are engaged. You need to know, are they engaged in the work? Because you can quantify machinery, you can quantify material, you can't quantify the labor. So with this, again, technology, we will be able to identify the time. In one glance, in 10 seconds, you'll get this graph. It comes to your Telegram or WhatsApp or your email. And this is a very powerful tool for the management. You will definitely, based on our experience, companies tend to improve productivity from 5 to 20% across, and this is all shared services. It's a subscription services. You don't want the next month, you don't take it. And finally, the aisles, clutter and non-cluttered aisles. You see, if you have a clutter in an aisle, it's a safety hazard. It's a precursor to a possible pilferage and the smooth, seamless flow of forklifts. These will actually help you with a graph, how clean is your aisle. So with these three things, you have a very powerful tool in you. So my message is, you have the video data, convert it to intelligent business tools. Thank you.
Thanks. I think that's very detailed. So I think let's move on to the second question in the essence of time. So I think there are a lot of people that would like to know, how do you address, like, there's so much implementation that you talked about, right? So like, what are the challenges that you will face implementing such sustainable practices in the supply chain with such diverse regulations, or like regulatory environments right now?
Okay, see, sustainability it's not about an individual, it's a teamwork. It's a complete, everybody's have to get involved in it. And many companies like IKEA, Tesla, Coke, they have all invested heavily into sustainability. Now, these organizations would like to know how effective is it in sustainability for the world, and how can they improve on it. See, a simple example is like iPhone. We know where is it iPhone manufactured. Everybody will say China. Probably now they'll say India. But iPhone manufacturing process, when you get it on your table, it comes from 43 countries. So you have a first tier 100 vendors, a second tier sub vendors about 1,000, and probably a third tier subcontractors 10,000. So that is how complex it is. So it's a huge data. And don't forget, data is the new fuel. And we hope that the world does not go on a conflict on data. Now, what are the challenges? The challenges is basically the technical availability, the process expertise, the availability of data. Why are we not getting the data? We're not getting the data is because we're all working in silo. Everybody has got ERP or Excel. Now, this is where blockchain comes into play. Like what Halim had said earlier, it's transparent, accountability. If you do it in silo, you can manipulate. But when you're in a blockchain, you can't do that. Now, we have a classic case in India in 2009. The pharma industry introduced a complete tracing and tracking of the pharmaceutical. It was a very successful rollout. In fact, my partners in Bangalore did this. They used something called as the CIP, is continuous inkjet printing. From the small ampules to packets to cartons, everything went well. Big boys were actually very excited. They placed orders, and then came a spanner. The small supply chain, manufacturers said it's too expensive for us to manage because you might have to print about 200 items in 1 minute. At that point of time, technology didn't allow that. So eventually, that went down the drain. But there was also other technical problems. That is what I want to check. At point A, it's a 16 code coding, your country, your manufacturing, plant, your company, and a lot of other information. All that was in place. But you scan in one place, you get the information that this has come from this particular factory. At the second level, they scan again, because that's probably a distributor. They get the same information. So the syndicate started using it to manipulate it. So eventually, the whole process was abandoned. This is what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Verghese. So I think Halim will probably have a lot more insight on the diverse regulatory environment kind of info, right?
Sure. Okay. Let's share this. I'll take it from the regulatory point of view. Cross-border issues is a given. The diversity in regulatory issues, it's even worse. Simply because, one, we all don't speak the same language. Two, we got different cultures. Three, we got different regulatory regimes simply because some are premised on the British Constitution, others are premised on many other laws for recovery and perhaps the rights of recovery. To incentivize this, I think really is to homologize. If we can, and I think this is where TAPA can do this as a supply chain, i.e. to create a common language or common minimum global expectations for certain regulatory requirements. And if we homogenize this, then everybody understands the same language. But it also requires you and I, especially the supply chain and the supply chain specialists, to engage governments at the highest level to do two things. One is to get buy-in, that if they want to encounter difficulty in trade, then their FDI is at risk. The only way for them to promote FDI is to promote supply chain. Hence, you must make your laws and regulations a bit more convenient for anyone and everyone. Together with that is to promote perhaps tax incentives. Where do we go down with these tax incentives? Perhaps we then have a vendorship management system for all supply chain participants. If you are a platinum class supplier, which follows ESG, which provides moral compass and integrity, and do all the right things in the world, in the platinum class, you get a better incentive. For those of you who practices forced labor, practices human rights issues, who steals, who doesn't have systems, methods, and control, then you'll be at the low end. If we do this kind of vendorship management, it is a collective leverage. And I think with a body like TAPA or many others, if we can put this together, we can change mindsets of the government, because it's all about business, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's the route we should follow, regulatory point of view.
Oh, thanks, Halim. I think you're adding a lot more pressure for Tony, and I think he's staring over. Yeah, so I guess he's pressurized. Okay, in the essence of time, let's quickly go through the third question, because I really want to leave the last questions for the audience. So on the third question, how do you collaborate and/or incorporate global programs to embrace sustainability? This one, I know it's huge. Let's try to move it around within supply chain. And then I think maybe Edward can help me out on the first.
I think first is the strategic governance. I think it's key. You need to have a mission. You need to plan your strategy. For us, we have the three pillars: trust, which were adopted from the from the UN and the government structure. Okay, and the other aspect is your environmental management. Implement your wastewater recycling, your compliance program with your EPA or your NEA in Singapore for waste treatment. Emphasize responsible recycling program, the R2 program. Data security is the key. And last, I think stakeholder engagement is important, be it your internal, your external, your customers, your investors, your community, and incorporate your feedback loop into the decision making. I think that's my takes on it.
Thanks, Edward. Halim, what do you think?
Close, but I think we have got to take a step further when we want to do global programs of this nature. One, I mentioned in my presentation earlier, is the virtuous cycle. If we can get each and every one of us not only gravitating to moral compass and integrity, but doing stuff the right way, then we've got a virtuous circle. And this virtuous circle must promote what this gentleman is also promoting: recycling, refurbishing, and ultimately circular economy. And if we can push this idea of everybody doing the right thing for the right reasons and increasing value through efficiencies, take away corrupt practices, take away all other difficulties in terms of human rights and forced labor, for example, and be humanized in those things that we do, we can then promote global programs. Without that, they'll be subjected to so many laws, regulations, and also predetermination that if you're a bad guy, you cannot succeed in life. As simple as that.
Thanks, Halim. So very quickly, I actually have a poll for everyone here. It's actually very related to the last question that we have. Maybe if you could put it up, the tech team, if you could put up the poll, please. So open to the floor. Which do you think is the most important consideration between profit, planet, and people in supply chain sustainability? Scan the QR code, put in the one that you feel that's most relevant, and then we'll have the results in a bit. But while we are at that, I want to really open a question to the floor. I think the last one that we really wanted to talk about was, when implementing sustainability programs and initiatives, how can we balance between profit planet and people in supply chain sustainability. If the tech team could have people stand by, go around the floor. Anyone wants to take this question, and or has any such related questions that you want to ask the experts right here?
Maybe I can ask one question to the audience. We see a lot of those from the agencies, the guarding industries, right? Now, in the name of sustainability, or and we know that, as Halim say, sustainability is here to stay, right? How do you embrace sustainability in your industry or on site? Because I know for sure you have what we call it the station diaries, or you have the log sheet. Now, how do you change that or transform that into what we call it the paperless? Is that possible? Yeah, that's one question expect. Yeah.
Anyone from the floor? I hope this is interactive. This is the last session here, and there isn't much left. Most of them have already taken on. No, I'm just kidding. There's still a lot of people left in the room. I really hope that someone could pick the mic up. I think
Cindy has got some answers.
Cindy? Anyone? No? If not, then I'll have to open it to the panel again. So I think let's look at the results right now. We have a planet actually on 50%.
Yeah.
And so
I think it's interesting because if everybody care for the planet, and I have to be very honest with you, sustainability comes with a huge cost. It's a big price tag. And are you prepared for it? Or we just only a lip service here? All right. So whatever we implement, if you can see the plan, we overshoot our budget by 50%. Right? To develop into with solar, with renewable, this comes with a huge cost. So yes, it's to protect the environment, and we speak, and we lead and live by it. So anyway, for us, since we're being thrown to the panel, it's important to establish your clear goal, from your leadership or your C-suites and so on and so forth. Define measurable goals, and also specific goals that align with your your organization values, and integrate these goals in overall business strategy. So I'm not trying to sell, how Navy sold off to, but one of the key strategy is sustainability. You have a sustainability program. In fact, our program even better than theirs. So this is very important for investors' interest. All right, that's one thing. Conduct a very comprehensive, like what Halim say, supply chain assessment or risk assessment or study. Evaluate your supply chain to identify areas. Even in office, you can do it, like waste paper, convert that into recycled paper. All right, instead of just shredding it. So this is one. Office, aircon temperature. Do you know what's the norm for aircon temperature? 22.5. It's too cold, with the exception of data center, right? Bring it up. You will help in your energy saving. Off the light. In China, they have the rest time to rest. They off the light like this now. Of course, I'm not putting you to sleep.
That's why we off the light.
Yeah, that's a deliberate intention anyway. Okay, engage with your supplier, and I think earlier on I add on to Verghese says one of the challenges is your partners and your downstream and your suppliers. How do you ensure that the data that they have is reliable, or just merely on an Excel spreadsheet? Okay, so that's why we go towards technology, a system like Substinion, which you can also use it. There are many available in the market that the auditors, in fact, we are auditors by our customer ESG. By the way, if you think that ESG is non-existent, some name will flash on the screen in Halim's site. They will come to you if you are the provider. And there are 101 questions on ESG. Okay? So be prepared for it. So it obviously comes with a price. So you need to collaborate with your suppliers and your partners, you know, and to share your sustainability journey.
Got it. Thanks. Thanks, Edward. I think without knowing, Edward actually did quite a very good summary. So let me just give 30 seconds or a one-liner from each of the rest of the panelists. I will start with Halim to wrap up this session.
The message I have, as I started earlier, it's all about moral compass and integrity, which must drive your purpose. Why are we here on this earth? And that purpose, sacrifice it against profit for the purpose of humanity. So leave behind a better world, ladies and gentlemen, and it starts with you. That's when we can share or balance PPP. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne?
I think what I can say is that sustainability is the way to go. All you all need to do is to put the right solutions into action. So sustainability, start from me, start from you. Can you all do it? Great.
Thanks.
I would like to quote Rose Parrott. What he says is, activist is not the person who says that the river is dirty. The activist is the one who cleans the river. So how many of us are willing to come forward and do that? And one more thing, always the security team says, no, we don't have budget, we are not given proper, recognition. You can tell them your security systems have become much more intelligent. You can improve productivity, efficiency, and drop the cost. That's my message.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to the panel. And really thank you for spending this time with us. And this is the last panel that we have today. I guess the host is going to take over.